We've got a crew in the helicopter, and what they're doing is they're using an infrared scope. What they're looking for is body heat shows up white through the scope, so what they're trying to do is look for a lone cow off by herself, and then they start searching the tall grass and bushes for an elk calf, essentially an egg shape laying in the grass.
I see the calf now.
And they'll radio down to us.
Where do we need to go?
Each one of these points has our own little name to it.
10-4, need you to head toward Hurricane. We got one up on top.
We'll try to corral the group together.
You guys need to surround it because this thing's mobile.
And what we want to do is
get the group around the calf.
You're between that little tree and that rock and that sarisa. You're right next to it.
We've got enough people to where we start trying to close in on the calf and try to capture it.
It's right in front of Frank. 5 yards. Got him. We got it. 10-4, we're heading to Beachford.
It is just like a rodeo, the elk roundup.
first thing we do is put the radio collar on so we can track the animal.
Which these that we're putting on today are expandable collars. The calves are very small, so the collars that we put on will expand to a certain size, but after about a year or so, they'll fall off. So when they're about 6 months or a year old, we try to go back and dart these animals and put adult collars on them so we can follow them for 5 years. The next thing we do is we collect a blood sample. This blood sample allows us to test for several things. The most important thing that we're going to test for is whether or not these animals are infected with a parasite known as brainworm.
Then we're going to ear tag it, so if we see it from a distance, we will know exactly which calf it is. We'll take total length and girth and just different types of measurements that will, aid us in determining how big it is and what condition the animal is in when we catch it.
47 pounds.
One of the main reasons that we're tagging these animals and putting radio collars on these young calves is to find out what the survival rate is, how fast our population is growing, and we'll be able to determine dispersal, where these animals are going to, what kind of habitat they're using, what kind of areas they're feeding in, so we know what type of habitat to plant for them. What's the most important vegetation types that these animals need for survival, not only as young calves, but also as they get older. Because of mountaintop removal and coal mining, we're working with the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation right now to also work with the coal companies to plant these areas after they're mined, plant them back in native vegetation that's important for elk, both wintering habitat, wintering foods, as well as foods in the spring and summer when cows are having calves. We no longer have mountain lions and we no longer have wolves, so really the only predators we have would be through hunting, what we implement ourselves. There's really no natural predators. Our mortality rate is very low. Last year, of the calves that we collared, we didn't lose any. This year we've lost maybe about 10%. Last year we had a cow that was harvested that was 18 years old. She was one of the original animals that we brought in, and when we brought her in, she was like 10 years old, and here she was at 18, and she was harvested during the hunt. So the survival on these animals is quite remarkable. The number of animals that we want to reach in this state is about 10,000. This number has been reached mostly based on how many animals that the habitat can support. Right now we're sitting somewhere around 5,700 animals, and as quickly as the population is growing, really it will not take us very many more years to reach this number. After that point, what we will do to control the numbers is through hunting. Hunting is going to be a very important management tool for us. We will use all of the data that we collect, we'll use in order to determine the hunting strategies for the next year and the management strategies for elk.